The conventional way of doing stairs is to cut stringers. But when you're doing wraparound stairs, there's some problem with stringers. Number one, we need a continuous footing of concrete all the way around in order for those stringers to rest on. And number two, we have to cut all of those stringers absolutely perfect, and in fact the footing has to be absolutely perfect. Otherwise, if the stringers, one is a little high or a little low, you'll see the waves of those high or low stringers in the finished deck boards. And on top of that, because we're using the Trex decking as our tread material, they require that the stringers be spaced no more than 12 inches on center. So we'd end up needing probably about 16 or 17 stringers to go all the way around. Plus, we'd have to frame out the diagonal stringer that goes out at the corner. The alternative is to build stacked boxes. It's going to be much easier to do the corner, and it's going to be much easier to frame out. Basically, it's a mini deck, long and thin, just with joists in between. So with the box stairs, we need to notch out the footings. They're high by like 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. So we need to get those notched only at the locations where the header boards for the boxes span over the top of the footings. So the easiest way to do that is once we have the deck frame done, we can use the deck frame as our reference and then measure down from the top and figure out how much of a notch we need to make. So I already know from my calculations how high the top of that box needs to be in relation to the bottom or the top of the deck surface in order to get evenly spaced height steps. So here when I check this, I see that I need to trim off 3/8 of an inch out of the bottom there. And over here it's the same, it's a strong 3/8, and then I can check it over at this footing and see if I need to do any adjustments. And when I check this, I only need like a 1/16 of an inch, and over here I need like an 1/8 of an inch. Here I can use my pencil, drag it across the top of the footing to give me that 1/8 of an inch space. I have a piece of scrap wood which is just a little over 1/4 of an inch thick. Along with the pencil line, that'll get me up to 3/8 of an inch, so I can use that, make a scribe mark, and then I do the same over here because this has to go down 3/8 of an inch as well. Once we cut that scribe line, we'll coat it with copper naphthenate, drop these in place, and then we're ready to put the little mini joist in for our bottom box. So because we're going to be installing all of these short joists between these stair box header boards, we're going to need joist hangers, especially in the middle here where it's unsupported by the footings. And because we'll be putting in joist hangers, we want to isolate the metal of the joist hanger from the joist and from the header board. So we're going to be wrapping joist tape, well it's actually flashing tape, we'll wrap that around the ends of each joist, and we're going to put a small piece of tape right across the face of the joist header board itself so that when the hanger touches it, it won't be in contact with it. There are a couple of additional advantages to doing the stacked box stairs. One is that, as you can see here, we only need footings spaced about 4 feet apart because the rim joist of the box can span the distance between the footings, so we have fewer footings, less concrete, and then it's going to be flatter and more even. Unlike a problem we might have with short or tall stringers creating waves in the treads, those stacked boxes are going to be nice and level across the top, just like the surface of the deck. So we're just about ready to put the top step box on top of the first step box. But before we do that, while everything's clear out of the way, I want to put some anchors to anchor the bottom box down to the footings. Now this anchor is going to help prevent the box from lifting up, but more so is to keep it from shifting out of position. So we've got the bottom box anchored down to the footings, and now we want to strap the bottom box to the deck frame on the back side. I'm just using some metal strap. I've already applied the isolation membrane so that where it contacts the pressure treated lumber, it's protected. And then I'll just nail it on with some metal connector nails. Drop it on top of the lower box, and then I'll have you slide it to me. So the skirt board and the rain screen project out away from the foundation. So what we ended up doing was notching the framing, and we'll end up scribing the riser board to go in that hole, and that way they won't see it. Now I'm going to nail the corner together, and then I'm going to toenail down the upper box to the lower box, and then I'm going to reach around inside and put the final fasteners between the metal strap and the top box, and that should tie everything together. So we've got the boxes secured, we got the tape on top. The last thing we got to do is deal with the corners where the mitered deck boards that are forming our treads are going to fall, because they need support diagonally from the outside corner to the inside corner. The one way to do that is to put a single board in like I have here. But the Trex instructions call for all of our miters to be gapped 1/8 of an inch, which is a good thing. That way it gives the boards a little bit of room to move as they expand and contract due to temperature. But if we put the diagonal solid block right in the middle, debris can collect in that gap because it can't flow through. So instead, I'm going to double block it, slide the corner block back about 1/2 of an inch, put a second block in so that we've got a gap there. And then when the miter comes together and we leave the gap between the boards, they're still supported about 1 inch back from the end at the miter, but that will allow the water to flow through, and any leaves or debris that collect in there will flow through as well and not end up growing moss and mold.